Hey, this is Troy from Planet 76. We've got some really good Sixers-focused content coming your way today. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you can be in the know when we release new content. Enjoy the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Planet 76, episode 103. That is 103 episodes of Planet 76. My name's Troy. I got Michael here with me, as always. As Michael just said off the air that this is an emergency edition of Planet 76, recording Monday night, the 14th of August, and we got some stuff to get into. Really just one main headline that we're going to talk about on this episode, and that is James Harden versus Daryl Morey, and a major break in the relationship there that we see. James Harden during a Adidas media event in China had this to say, and here we're going to play the clip for you right now.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
All right, Michael. So, based on that, Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Just your initial, we'll break it down a little bit over the next few minutes, but just your initial reaction to James Harden's remarks.
It's a pretty loaded statement, in my opinion. I think, bold accusations, too. And obviously, we still don't know the full story, because right after Harden said what he said, report came out that the Sixers never actually offered him a contract. So there's a lot of pieces to the story, and it's not that it's hard to get everything together, but Harden wanted a contract from the Sixers. He wanted a lot of money. We know this. The Sixers were not going to offer him that contract. We also know this. Now, Harden opted into his player option in June 30th or something.
Right.
If he really wanted to leave that badly, he could have just left. And I will give him some credit, because him opting in and having the Sixers trade him allows the Sixers to get something from him while he also leaves. So there definitely is some consideration on his part. But at the end of the day, if things were so bad and as bad as he's making them seem, he could have just left. He could have left in free agency. He could have tested the market and see what he's worth, which we know now would have been not what he wanted at all, because nobody's banging at the door trying to get James Harden on their team. And, we can go into more of that, of why that is, but I think for the most part, he's just not worth the money that he wants. And he's a smart enough person, it seems, to understand or know that. You would think he's well aware of that at this point, which he's not.
Wow, dude. I know we've been doing this for 103 episodes, but you as a member of Sixers media, large, small, whatever, you just impressed me.
Wow, thank you.
With those statements. That was really good. That was really good, and it's good in multiple ways. The first way is, so normally, like you said, last week's episode, I make up an outline for us and get the ball rolling, and I didn't give you anything today, again, emergency podcast, but I did jot down just a couple things for myself, and one of those was, okay, here's what we know, here's what we know, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and you just went through some of those things. I think that's funny. And then secondly, just the way, now, Sixers media today has been in an uproar. There's been a lot of people upset. You were very calm, cool, collected with that opening remark, and I think that is a beautiful thing, my friend. So here's what I will add to that. As you mentioned, so June 29th, James Harden opts into that $35.6 million player option. That's what we know. And then we also know that we talked about this when that went down over a month and a half ago, that the same part of that notification everybody got that he opts in is that in hopes to get a trade from the Philadelphia 76ers, and everybody's like, okay, why do you do that? But okay, yeah, we can get something in return. So there's some key dates, right? June 29th is that key date. The second key date that to me that comes to mind is August 12th. The Sixers have ended trade talks for James Harden and plan to bring him back. So in the, however many days, month and a half, there was trade talks going on. August 12th, they have stopped. August 14th, Harden comes out and rips Daryl Morey, calls him a liar. So what we don't know, obviously, is what goes on behind closed doors. What we don't know is even exactly what this lie is about. Now, given that context that, the Sixers ended trade talks on August 12th, I guess it's James Harden, was he promised that from Daryl that he was going to trade him? And that's what he's upset about? We know he's upset about money. Is it both together that Daryl's a liar? Like, what exactly makes him say that? Is he a liar? How does this change our feelings toward James Harden? Is this beyond repair? Like, there's still a lot of unknowns here that I see. And again, to your point, James could have became a free agent. And obviously, the market's not there for him in a trade, and the Sixers don't want to do something stupid. Why don't you, I'll put you on the spot again, since you did it so well the first time, why don't you just be in Daryl's shoes right now? Over this last month and a half, maybe defend it as if you're Daryl Morey, this situation.
Well, at the end of the day, if I'm a GM of a team and I have James Harden on my team, I want a good package for him. I'm not going to deal him for scraps. And honestly, that goes for any all-star of any real caliber, all-star level player of any caliber, all-star and better players in this situation, Harden. I'm going to try and get the best deal I can. I'm not going to just dump him for whatever I can get, because even if there isn't a huge market for him right now, we saw with Simmons, however long ago, Daryl waited a year almost a year to trade him. Actually, let me think about this.
Yep.
He got here November 2021. No. Wait.
Daryl?
He got here when did he get here? He got here November 2020, right? Daryl Morey.
Sounds right.
November 2020. Simmons gets traded February 22.
February.
So he waited. Wait, Simmons requested a trade. Anyway, I'm getting the timelines confused. But
like in June.
Bottom line
right,
is Daryl Morey
June,
waited an exorbitant amount of time to trade Ben Simmons.
Right.
And that was Ben Simmons. This is James Harden, who, at least I would argue, I saw some things on Twitter today that I didn't like, but at least I would argue is better than Ben Simmons. He's going to wait.
Yes.
He's still going to wait, and he should. He should wait. Like you said, I'm going to defend Daryl Morey because I think he's right. I agree with him. Not because I think it's the right thing to do, because I agree of what he's doing. And even if there was some sort of verbal agreement, I'm putting air quotes because I don't even know at this point. Even if there was some verbal agreement between them, verbal agreements are contingent on you putting up your end of the bargain, which is like playing the way you're supposed to play. Harden didn't do that in Game 6 and 7, and obviously Embiid is at fault too. We talked about it on here. But if you want $40 million a year, you probably could have played better in Game 6, and there wouldn't have been a Game 7. So play better in Game 6, you probably get the contract. Nothing was in writing.
Yep.
Daryl didn't say, all right, let's get this thing signed. In fact, neither party really did that, honestly. So if there was some sort of verbal agreement, like nothing's set in stone, nothing is written on paper, things can change and things are subject to change. And at the end of the day, James Harden, is he really going to do this for an extra $5 million a year? He made $34 million this past year. He wants $40. You really holding out for $6 more million after the millions and millions he's made in his entire career? I understand players want to get their money, as they should, but at the end of the day, how much is enough? Because he came to the Sixers to win a championship. He didn't say he wanted to come here to max out his contract and earnings, which again, it's fine if players want to do that. But when you literally say, I want to win a championship, to me, that means you want to win a championship, not just make a bunch of money. So this whole situation is just honestly very confusing. And at the end of the day, it seems like James Harden's not going to play to start the season. I wish he would just play for the sake of... I mean, if he doesn't play, he's only hurting himself even more than he already has. So we didn't know what was going to happen with Harden a month and a half ago. We still don't know. That I'm leaving it with that.
Yeah. As you say that, I'm almost like, there's been so many ups and downs in Harden's tenure since he's been here, just like even your feelings toward him. This whole development parallels the series in Boston. Yeah. Like, his play on the court and then off the court, his just where he's at with this team. And like, you think about it, after his first part of the season with, the team when he got traded here, he did, in fact, take a pay cut, which we applauded him greatly for, so that we could go and retool and get some new pieces to this team. And we applauded him for that. And so I'm, like, even wondering how far back, because obviously if he's saying that he's a liar, then that means there were promises, verbal, I guess, that were made. And I'm wondering how far back these things go that are, in James's mind, unfulfilled promises that Daryl's made. Right, because it could go all the way back to, all right, James, you're going to take a pay cut this year, but guess what, buddy? We're going to pay you next year. Like, I mean, we don't know, how far it goes, like you just said. And so, like, but again, there were so many great things to applaud James for in the Boston Celtics series. He single-handedly really won 2 games, willed us to victory. And then there were some things just to really, really, really cause us to lose. Like, let's just put it that way. And now it's like, okay, on one hand, we have a lot to applaud James Harden for in his tenure here. And now a lot, on the other hand, it's like, now he's bashing the GM, calling him a liar. And how much, I mean, he's done this before. He got his way out of Houston. He willed his way out of Brooklyn. Like, I saw a post today that, like, maybe James, you're the problem if all of these things keep happening. And, it's not the cities and these franchises, it's you. It's a weird spot. Now, obviously, the question is, will James Harden show up for training camp? And it truly is a Ben Simmons part 2. And what's interesting is, like, this guy could have just become a free agent, like you just said a minute ago. Like, when have you ever seen someone opt into their contract and, like, willingly do that and then have this kind of issue in the offseason? Like, that just doesn't happen. It's crazy. And Philadelphia and Daryl's not going to just say, okay, let's get nothing back and let's just give him what he wants. Daryl's going to wait. And you and I, obviously, we've talked about it, and I'll get more of your thought too. But just, we don't have an issue waiting if it is going to be the right guy coming back, the right package coming back, because we're not going to settle. Like, we don't care about December basketball. If the Sixers are around 500 in January, okay, as long as that trade happens before the deadline and they can be in a good position for the postseason, we're okay with that. And this move, whatever it is with James Harden, is pivotal for the next X amount of years with the Sixers and Joel Embiid.
I feel like this is something that only happens to the Sixers. This is something that would only happen to this team, this franchise. No other franchise would have to experience something like this to this level. Not only once, but twice. Obviously, Houston had to deal with it. Brooklyn, too, because Harden has done this. which, again, we can go into the reasons behind each of those individual circumstances another time. But this is something that would only happen to the Sixers. Having one player request a trade, then sit out. Having another player request a trade and sit out. Actually, James Harden, didn't he demand a trade? Either way,
yeah.
This is no other franchise. I was thinking about this today. No other franchise in the history of the league would have this happen to them to this extent. No other single franchise. It would only be the Sixers because just all the things that have happened to this franchise in the past, even 5 years, if you think about it. I mean, the most unfortunate, unbelievable, to be honest, circumstances and situations that this team has been in and through. Yeah. It's just like, this is only fitting. This is just on brand for the Sixers.
Yeah, right. And I just, I would love to have been, because no one expected James to opt in when he did. And it was like last minute, like, whoa, out of nowhere. Like, that wasn't even an option, it seemed like. And then he did. And I would just love to be in the room when Daryl's promising whatever, because, like, yeah, we're going to work for a trade for you, buddy, but, like, realize, and you saw me do it with number 25 back in the day. Like, you saw me do it. You were part of that deal. I waited to get you. So, like, if I waited to get you, who's a better player, a top, however many, whatever list you put him on of great players in this league, and like, I'm gonna wait. Like, you do realize, James, I'm not getting rid of you next week. This could be a while, and obviously in the last month and a half, a lot of talks happened, but nothing materialized. The Clippers offered not enough, the team that James wanted to go to, and so they didn't do it. And so I think if you're going to back Daryl at all, like, you got to back the point that he's not trying to ruin the franchise by doing something just to give his friend
and that's
what
the thing,
he wants.
too. People get on Daryl for, we talked about this on the podcast. I'm sure we've talked about this multiple times on different episodes. People get on Daryl Morey for wanting to he wants to ruin the franchise. He's wasting Embiid's career. He doesn't care about this team. He doesn't care about this organization. But those same people will slander him for waiting on a James Harden trade and trying to get the best deal possible. Something that he did with Simmons, and guess what? He got probably the best player, actually not probably, definitely the best player that he could have got in a Ben Simmons trade. It was James Harden. People still think this dude is just here to do whatever he wants and just have fun and just mess with the team. It's so... At this point, if you think that, you are delusional. I'm sorry. It's mind-boggling that people still see what he's done in the past for this franchise and still think he's trying to just ruin things and just, like, run through the franchise and then leave it and then that's it. It's crazy.
Right. Can you...
Sure.
And we'll close with this, Eric, I guess. Can you somehow see this at all from James Harden's side, where you come out of this not, like, upset toward it? Because, like, I'm kind of like, come on, man. Like, I'm kind of upset. You know what I mean? Like, I like James Harden as a player, and I've enjoyed his time on the Sixers, but, like, to take it to this level, because, in reality, by the looks of it, his stock, he thought was, he thought it was going to be an easy get because teams would offer everything for him, and it just hasn't happened, and the Sixers stopped looking. Like, he's not as good as he thought he is. But, like, do you see this at all from James Harden's perspective, where you're like, yeah, I can see it?
After the playoffs, I was really neutral on James Harden. Really neutral. I didn't have any real strong emotions in either direction for James Harden. Now I think I'm slightly negative. Mm-hmm. I can understand the whole verbal agreement thing. If somebody tells you they're going to do something, all you have is their word, and that's all you can go off of, so I get it. But at the same time, James Harden still can't drop a stink bomb in Game 6 and 7 and expect to be paid $40 million a year. Because they agreed on him having a player option year 2, which this is year 2 of his contract because he re-signed with the Sixers. This is year 2, so they agreed on a player option. So they already gave him the choice. He made the choice to opt in thinking he'd be traded. Or thinking... I don't even know what he was thinking, to be totally honest with you. I'm still trying to understand what he thought when he opted in after opting out initially. So, to me, like, I can understand if you are in agreement or supposedly in agreement with someone about something and then things just go wrong. But it all comes down to, if he really was so unhappy, why didn't he just leave? If he really was so upset with how the situation was handled that he wasn't offered a contract, okay, cool. Then leave. Don't opt in. It's nice that you tried to help the Sixers. It's great. But if you really were that frustrated about it, leave. Just leave. If it's really that, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. If you really are that upset about it, just leave. Really, it is that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, from a human, just in its simplest form, as a human, like James getting his feelings hurt and being upset, that there was a promise of whatever, I get it. But, again, if the root of why he's upset is that he hasn't gotten traded yet, and that's because, and it's not because the Sixers haven't tried, it's because the Sixers haven't found the package that is worthy of them letting James Harden go, and he's upset about that, there's nothing that warrants that. This is a business. The Sixers have to make a decision that is in their best interest. You opted into a contract. You agreed to this, and you agreed that the Sixers have to get something for you. And, it's the same thing with Damian Lillard right now. Like they're not going to get rid of him for nothing. There's just one of the best players in the history of the NBA. Like, it has to work for the Sixers as a team with an MVP in Joel Embiid and an up-and-coming star in Tyrese Maxey. Like, they are not giving up on a potential pursuit of a championship, and so they have to do what's in their best interest. And so, maybe he can be upset about some of the other stuff. If it's money, if it's this, if it's that, empty promises regarding that, sure. But he cannot be upset that the Sixers haven't dealt him yet. And
great
that
point.
Is all
great
I'm gonna
point.
say.
Absolutely.
All right. This was fun. Hopefully, for you Planet 76 watchers or listeners, this adds a little bit of perspective on the James Harden development. And we will continue to see what happens in the coming days, weeks, and months. And as we inch closer to Sixers training camp, preseason, and the regular season in just a couple months. So we'll see you next time for episode 104. This is episode 103 of Planet 76. We'll see you next time. If you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this is the podcast for you. Planet 76, a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see you next time.